So, with the NBA season about to come to a close, there's only about, I believe, like 10, maybe 11, 12 games left for some teams. Um, you know, this is down to the wire for some teams, and there's going to be a lot of like X factors, I think, this year in the playoffs. So, I want to make a video off the top of three on my head. First, I'm going to go Kyle Kuzma. So, I'm pretty sure, as you guys heard already, Damian Lillard, he went out with DVT. He's out indefinitely. And basically, what a DVT is when your vein, it kind of like bundles up in like your lower ligaments. So in Dame's case, it's in his calf. And, in order to like, I guess, resolve it, you have to take blood thinners or whatever so your vein can loosen up and finally stretch out so the blood can circulate properly to the spot. So, with the DVT, Kyle Kuzma is going to be forced to basically be the second option on the team. It's Giannis right now. Brook Lopez, he's stepping it up a little bit. But, Giannis, he's going to need help in the scoring department because, the roster they have around him right now, it's not really going to get it done. Like, yeah, you have a little bit of shooting with Gary Trent. Torian Prince, he's been pretty alright this year, but, I believe that's not really going to get it done for Milwaukee. And right now, hypothetically, they would face Indiana in the first round, which I believe they can win. Indiana, it's a pretty good matchup for them. They got that matchup, but, they obviously traded for Dame to win a championship, so you got to try your best to achieve that. And with the roster they have right now, I don't really see them doing that unless Kyle Kuzma steps up and, scores the ball more and he becomes a second option. And we've never really seen Kyle Kuzma in the second option role. He's always kind of been like a third option when he was with the Lakers. On the Wizards, he was, kind of like the main guy, but it was empty stats. So, this playoff is going to really show who Kyle Kuzma is as a player. And, we'll see if Milwaukee's able to make some noise. Next player I want to talk about, Jonathan Kuminga for the Golden State Warriors. So the Warriors, they're fighting for position right now. The best case scenario, I would want to see them drop to 7 where the Clippers are at, just so they could get an easier matchup. But depending on where LA finishes, it might be good for them because the Warriors they could go from facing LA right now, Houston, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, like that 2 to 6 spot in the West. It's like interchangeable right now, and these last 10 games are going to dictate who's going to face who. But the Warriors, Kuminga, he needs to be a consistent scorer off the bench. In the beginning of the season, people were thinking oh, well, he's going to take this leap because, it's a contract year for him. And we haven't really seen that. He's having a career year. He's averaging about 17 on the season. And, he's come back from injury. And playing alongside Jimmy Butler, he's looked fine. Yeah, there's obviously some contradictions on the offense because Jimmy Butler and Kuminga aren't really shooters like that per se. But they make it work. But Kuminga, he's going to need to be consistent off the bench if the Warriors want to make some noise in the playoffs because hypothetically they face LA in the first round. I'm pretty sure most of us have LA winning that series, but it could be a good series. You never know when it comes to the NBA playoffs. So if Kuminga could just consistently be a reliable scorer off the bench due to Golden State's lack of depth, we'll see how far they can go. And it's literally dictated on Jonathan Kuminga how far the Warriors can go this year. Because they didn't trade for Jimmy Butler just to be a first round exit, let's be real. And the last guy I want to talk about, it could be either or. I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard. So I could have easily went James Harden, but, everyone knows that James Harden needs to perform this playoffs if the Clippers want to do something. The Clippers are personally one of my dark horse type teams to make it out the West this year. They've been pretty good all season. They made their identity defense. When Kawhi Kawhi was out, Norman Powell, James Harden, and Zubac carried the show. Man, now that he's back, they're still keeping that same level of play. They're just not getting the wins. But Kawhi, he has been playing better as the season's been progressing. I think for like a 2-week period, he was averaging around like 24 a game, getting back to around the production he was putting up before he was injured. But same situation with the Clippers. Like, depending on these last 10, 11, 12 games or so, they're gonna either match up with the Rockets in the first round or match up with the Lakers or Denver in the first round. You never know. So, the Clippers, if they could keep that 7th spot or potentially just go on a nice winning streak and move up to one of those top spots to where they could face Memphis or Houston, that would be pretty good for them. I generally don't think they want to face LA in the first round. I think they're trying their best to avoid LA. And, that's why I said Golden State should drop, because they don't want to face LA in the first round. I feel like you need to wait a little bit, because a first round matchup against Braun and Luka, you're bound to lose. But if Kawhi's genuinely able to just be like 80% of Toronto Kawhi when he went on that crazy run, I see the Clippers going pretty far. James Harden, he has to be reliable, obviously. He's going to have his off nights here and there. Norman Powell, he's coming back from injury, but I'm pretty sure he'll figure it out eventually. And then Zubac, he's been reliable all season. But it's literally banking on Kawhi to just play at a high level. And, if he does play at a high level, hopefully they make it out the first round. And we'll see where they go from there. But anyways, let me know if you guys have any other players that, might be some X factors, or maybe if I'm wrong about these 3 players that I discussed. But, those are just my 3 X factors.